All right.
And I'll ask the question. What do you wish you would have known about leadership and pastoral ministry in your 20s and 30s?
I think that I wish that I would have more quickly followed my call. And I went into ministry, but I knew more specifically what God was calling me to. And for a variety of reasons, just didn't follow that call fully.
What one thing do you wish you'd done differently early in your ministry? You kind of already shared it.
Yeah, I think that it's easy when you're coming out of school to have a lot of like strategy that you think is the right thing, a lot of idealism. But then when it hits the real world, you can be unbending with that. And I wish I would have been more responsive to people who had been around a little bit longer.
One discipline or activity that you found most helpful in your ministry, or even personal spiritual development?
Yeah, I think taking a day off is super important for pastors, and would encourage everyone to, if that's not your practice, to do it.
What's your day off right now?
Friday. Yeah.
What is one of the behaviors or traits that you have seen derail more pastoral leaders' careers? A mistake you see them continually making that throws off ministry?
I think that they make ministry the only thing that matters in their life, and they slowly get hollowed out inside until they start making stupid mistakes. But I think it starts before those stupid mistakes. They don't know how to be loved anymore, and their soul erodes.
So a lot of people talk about how God should be our number one priority, our spouse number two, children three, but it's really easy in ministry to get those out of order, put in a love for the church or ministry somewhere in the mix. Like, how have you kind of prioritized marriage, family, God, and not kind of thrown that off?
Yeah. I think, spending time in devotions, just regular spiritual practices, has been a helpful reflection time in all of those areas. It just helps prioritize my day and my thoughts and my loves more than anything. And I think too, when you go through hard times like you do in ministry, to know where the core is and to lean on that, to say, okay, everything else can fail, but I want my marriage to be strong. Everything else can fail, but I want to be a disciple at the end of the day. Just knowing that that's your core and foundation. So
you and Christy are co-pastors. So how have you, this isn't one of the questions.
That's all right.
Bonus for
Yeah.
Like, how have you made sure, because you're doing ministry together, but keeping like marriage strong, that like you're not always like taking the church on dates with you, considering you both love the church and serve the church and lead in the church?
Yeah.
Like, what have you done there for some of the co-pastors that might be listening?
Sure. So one of the things I love about being a co-pastor is that she understands my world. And I think a lot of times you go home if you're a pastor and your spouse is just like, well, I don't get it, or I totally get it, but I can't do anything about it. I can't like join with you in the same way with the same authority in the church. I love that about co-pastoring. I do think that it's easy to have that be the only thing that you talk about. So when we go on dates, sometimes like we want to talk about it, and sometimes we just want to brag about, like any sort of job, you want to brag about what you did during the day. So we set a time limit, half an hour, we're going to talk about this, and then we're going to flip and talk about other things. Yeah.
So you talked earlier about the need for a day off. How do you separate yourself effectively from work to rest? How have you developed that rhythm of Sabbath? Yeah.
So just a practical thing. Our day off is on Friday. We take it fairly legalistically. It's the same day off every week, so that the congregation knows, I'm not going to return phone calls on Friday unless it's really important. And so there's that rhythm. But also we have a deadline on Thursday night to get all of our sermon notes and stuff like that in, which just clears the path for Friday being a true day off.
A book that you would recommend every pastor should read?
Maybe I have two. So, A Tale of Three Kings, I think, is a great book, especially for young pastors to read.
I'm gonna have to post my video first now. So.
Yeah, is that the one that you picked? Yeah, it's a classic, and I think it's good to pull out every once in a while. It's probably time for me to read that book again. And then I think a great leadership book. I love Patrick Lencioni. The Advantage just kind of distills his leadership practices. I think it's a great book.
Any conference or podcast or sermon thing that more kind of experiential than just reading a book, anything like that you would recommend that pastors might not have heard of but should get involved in?
Yeah. I love CCDA for its community development stuff. I feel like it needs to be balanced with the church ministry side, and so it takes a little translating. I love the Bible Project podcasts and videos. That's been just a really great source for me lately.
So when faced with two great opportunities, how do you decide which one to go with? I know that doesn't happen often in life, but sometimes there'd be no wrong decision, but you want to make sure you make the right decision.
I think for those big opportunities, it's always a group process, both in the church and between Christy and I. So a lot of times as co-pastors especially, we get asked the question, well, if there's a big decision and a decision has to be made and you're not on the same page, what do you do? Well, we continue to seek the Lord on that and have God help us make that decision. So I think seeking God and even practicing some mutual submission in that decision-making process until the Lord leads. That's how we do it.
So a lot of times business leaders think in this terms with what's the smallest possible change we can make that would have the biggest possible positive result. So for a pastor or even a young leader, what's something small they can do that they had no idea would make an exponentially big result?
I think an investment in your own spiritual life as a pastor produces the biggest result across the board. Easily.
Finally, what are you doing right now in your life to make sure you're continually growing and developing as a leader? It's an ongoing process, obviously. So what are you doing now?
Yeah. So this is fresh, but we've just had some tough conversations with listening conversations, not telling conversations, but tough listening conversations for different groups in our congregation. Knowing that heading into those conversations that it's going to be hard to hear, but trusting that God will use that to help the whole church get better.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam.
Yeah.